Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Think Bitcoin podcast, where I talk to Bitcoiners about big ideas. Please like, rate, and subscribe to the show. It is very much appreciated and does help expand the reach of the show. Today's guest is Brian Harrington. Brian has been making content at the nexus of Bitcoin and personal finance for a long time. He's also become one of the most interesting voices on Bitcoin culture in recent years. We talk about what integrating Bitcoin into society looks like versus building a separate parallel one. We talk about unlearning limiting beliefs and habits. We discuss the importance of compounding in the context of both influence and community. And we talk about health and some real estate as well. So without further ado, please enjoy this conversation with Brian Harrington. All right, we are live. Brian Harrington, welcome to the Think Bitcoin podcast. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, good to see you. We were just talking a little bit before we hit record, so I wanted to hit record because I had a feeling you were going to start to say some very interesting stuff, the way that you are wont to do. So I wanted to just get started and dive in. So Brian, I'm super pumped to have this conversation. You and I have obviously talked before on several different occasions. You're one of my favorite people to talk to because I think in terms of an idea per minute count, I think your rate is pretty dizzyingly high, abnormally high. And I also think that you have some positions and some ideas about the nexus between Bitcoin and personal finance that are different. They're sort of outside the box. I think you're not afraid to think independently. You don't really ever, I think, bend to any type of group think, or you're always somebody who seems to me like they're questioning the commonly accepted knowledge, which I appreciate. And you have some very, very interesting takes on real estate and personal finance that we want to get into,
Yeah.
that you've been
No,
elaborating on your YouTube channel recently.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. And people should go to the YouTube and check out, Logan and I last time were challenging the orthodoxy of a lot of like on-chain finance stuff. And so no, I appreciate the same thing about you. And yeah, just I try if I'm ever like pausing or whatever, I'm trying to say things that are not I'm not trying to give cliched YouTube things that have been repeated a bunch of times. Like Bitcoin is new and fresh and is still new and fresh. And so yeah, I'm trying to say things that have not been said before.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what we'll do, I think most people are probably familiar with who you are. So let's go ahead and just dispense with the obligatory intro stuff at the beginning. I'll give you a chance at the end to sort of tell people where you want to send them to find out, more of what you're up to. But I want to dive right in, Brian. So you've been cranking out some YouTube videos recently. And again, I would recommend those to everybody too. They are a vibe right now. I think I compared them to, it's like, turning on a Jerry Garcia guitar solo of personal finance and Bitcoin content. It's just a vibe. So definitely recommend. But you've been really harping on 0.21 Bitcoin as this number that people should be aspiring to acquire in terms of their own Bitcoin holdings. And you've framed that in a couple of different ways. You've framed it as, 0.21 Bitcoin. And well, actually, let's start with this. Why the number 0.21 Bitcoin? Break that down for us. How did you arrive
Yeah.
at that?
So just quickly on the math, if you take 21 million divided by 0.21, you get 100 million. There's 8 billion people in the world. Top 100 million people puts you in the top 1%. So just verifiably from the math, 0.21 puts you in the top 1% Bitcoin holders in the world. Smart commenters point out most likely higher because of the amount that corporations have already stacked, countries have already stacked. So absolutely. And the reason for this, of hammering this and continuing to repeat it, is because crypto people are still underexposed to Bitcoin, and TradFi people are still underexposed to Bitcoin. I've recently had a lot more empathy for both of those groups. Like if you're out there just looking at you just have a really dialed in alternate L1 thesis and you like see those as income potential and growth potential things, sweet. Like awesome, terrific. You have to understand that you need less Bitcoin than you think to have a significant amount of it. And so crypto people are still underexposed to the opportunity that Bitcoin presents. And then TradFi people, and I don't count, and I'm saying, when I say TradFi people, I mean like, I should say like, no, no, I'm trying to find the most neutral way to just say like normal non-crypto people that don't do this every day. Like
Yeah,
if you're
non-pejorative.
just 35, like I'm 35 to 55-year-old Americans with W-2 jobs are underexposed to Bitcoin. And I actually believe that they are a large like actually a really large like growth mechanism for Bitcoin replacing fiat money is like these are the people like buying homes and raising kids and going to work every day and like deciding, do I funnel money into my 401k or do I funnel the liquidity into my regular life? Like these people are the ones making like bulk financial decisions and earning money every single day. And I believe like I don't just believe Bitcoin being better than fiat in like a philosophical sense. I actually believe that it can change the financial trajectory of regular working people.
Yeah, and I think that you do a really good job of like trying to reach those people. I agree that's a huge cohort of people that are probably not necessarily going to be reached or moved by a pitch to kind of just totally orange pill, put all of your money into Bitcoin, that sort of thing. I think you do a pretty good job of making a good faith effort to meet those people where they are and to try to give them something that is realistic, that's achievable, that's also going to be really impactful to their lives, that isn't incredibly intimidating, which I think the 0.21 number helps. It's not like you're telling somebody, "Wow, you have to go out and get a full coin," or you have to,
Mhm.
lever yourself up.
Because these people already have disposable income. They have disposable income. They most likely have already bought and sold Bitcoin and crypto. That's the thing. Like we're so far into this now that they like I've ran into here's people just look you bring it up in day-to-day life. And I ran into in my normal life, my normal neighborhood, I've ran into a six-figure Ripple holder. I've ran into a six-figure Cardano holder. I've ran into the classic guy that's like, yeah, I put my money into Dogecoin when they were talking about Saturday Night Live, and I watched it double, and then I pulled it out. And then you have the people that like I put it into Dogecoin on Saturday Night Live and lost it all. Like, and then you have the people that are like, and now I just trade options instead on Robinhood because I lost money on FTX. And it's like I thought you guys said that the bankers were the scammers, but now this like cargo short wearing puffy hair kid was also a scammer. And so, like, what's the deal? What's the deal? Like, and or it's just like, oh yeah, my cousin makes millions of dollars day trading crypto, but I'm trying to just like, but I'm the responsible cousin that just like does the 401k thing. So like that's random. Like and just no, like literally buying 18k, $18,000 worth of Bitcoin is like a really big deal and like actually falls into your like being responsible like thesis, which I agree with.
Yeah. No, it's totally the crypto stuff. I think you and I have probably publicly wrestled with this more than most people in the Bitcoin space is so difficult to navigate, to talk about it. It's so challenging to get people to take you seriously when you bring it up, just because there's so much scammy nonsense going on in the crypto world. But that also doesn't mean that the crypto world is 100% bullshit. I mean, it's certainly not. Um, but it's very, very hard to disentangle like what is potentially useful and why is it potentially useful versus what is just kind of, more or less like VC vapor stuff. But we can get into that later as well. So 0.21 Bitcoin, you've said that 0.21 Bitcoin plus one house, plus owning your house is the perfect portfolio, which, there are definitely Bitcoiners who would, tell you, no, don't own your house, rent forever, take the money, um, and buy Bitcoin that you would be. But you have this, I want to let you elaborate on this, but you framed this in a way that I want to kind of like narrow you because I think it's really, really insightful.
So
And for
yeah,
me, and as you said, you talk a lot about fixing your housing costs because everything else is going up. And can you talk about that in the portfolio, the 0.21 plus
yeah.
one house?
Yeah. So this is an emotional one. Like this is an emotional one for Bitcoin people because I think they sacrificed a lot to just focus on Bitcoin, diligently focused on Bitcoin. And we're all older now. We are all older now. We are not like I'm not the same loudmouth libertarian single guy on the internet as when I started this whole thing. And so we've all grown up a little bit and we all sacrificed a lot. And I think this extends even past Bitcoin people. Like I've been trying to understand like where is the emotionality come with this whole like spreadsheet driven renting is better stuff in like so whether it's the fireman, whatever brand of spreadsheet driven renting is better stuff, it's people are like they have sacrificed a lot. They've sacrificed not having backyard barbecues. They've sacrificed like not being able to hang pictures on themselves. They've sacrificed like not having control of their parking spot. Like it's an emotional thing. Like your home is an emotional thing. Okay. And so I recognize that I'm another guy on the internet that's just like, I'm a homeowner. You should be a homeowner too. Like I recognize that bias, but okay. So renting versus owning from the perspective of a Bitcoiner, first I want to tackle the appreciation part of the down payment. Okay. People say, oh, but renting and then buying Bitcoin is a better return. Okay. Here's why I disagree with that. Because we're going to take an illustration of a $500,000 house. Okay. So a 5% down payment is $25,000. Okay. That's step number one, is that if you're still believing in 20% housing down payments, I just fundamentally disagree with you. Like, I think 5% is in my opinion, the perfect number for a down payment because of, again, speaking very to an American audience, the American mortgages are the tried and true way that the majority of people became a millionaire pre-Bitcoin. And now Bitcoin is going to be the primary way that people become a millionaire post Bitcoin. But that doesn't mean that structurally American mortgages are still a really great deal for wealth accumulation. So, okay, 5% down is $25,000. If you take $25,000 and you grow it at, say, in an alternative universe, you don't buy the house, you invest the 25,000 into Bitcoin, and you grow it at a 50% CAGR. Okay, you get X dollars after 4 years. Okay, if you take that $25,000, what people are doing that they're doing wrong is they're taking the $25,000 and then they're growing it at a 5% CAGR because that's the CAGR of real estate. And again, if you want to tinker with the numbers and say it's 4, say it's 8, like that's not the exact thing. 50 versus 5, okay? They're saying, oh, the 25K growing at 5% grows less. So obviously you should go buy Bitcoin. The 25K is actually 500K. You need to grow the entire house. The value of the entire house, the whole $500,000 house should grow at that 5%. So what I want people to understand is that 25K in Bitcoin growing at 50% is very, very close to 500K growing at 5%. So the leverage you can get on real estate makes the CAGR of the down payment to the house or to Bitcoin relatively closely equal. Relatively closely equal. Okay. So that's step number one, is recognizing that like the actual sunk cost of the down payment accumulates the value of inflation in Bitcoin and housing at about the same rate. About the same rate. Okay. And then number two, secondly, and then this is what you were getting into about like fixing the cost versus variable cost. So in my opinion, the variable costs of renting versus owning are effectively a wash. They're just like electricity, like just things that are variable are effectively a wash, okay, in both situations. But in housing, you are getting some of it back as a rebate in the form of inflation appreciation. And so those are like the two central tenets that like I've started looking at this on that yeah, which is why I believe the math is closer than people think. And when people hand wring over the math in favor of renting, I believe there is a little bit of an emotional sunk cost component that they have sacrificed a lot, and it's cope. Like the internet, they're coping with their decision and rationalizing their decision, which is fine. But I don't buy, yeah, I don't buy that it's a better deal.
Yeah, I find prong two very compelling. The fixing your housing costs. I do think that the idea that basically everything else is basically everything else in your life is going to go up in price. Essentially, everything related to the maintenance of your house is going to go up in price. Everything related to the insurance of your house is going to go up in price, or the insurance of your rental insurance, whatever. Insurance, maintenance, whether you're renting or how that stuff is all going up. It's going up basically forever. And so I think the idea of fixing your housing cost, trying to like put a floor on that, is intelligent, and that makes a lot of sense to me. But do you get pushback on? I mean, I am not a math guy, so if this is mathematically, imbecilic, please gently let me know. But do you get any pushback of for prong one when you're talking about the CAGRs and the down payment? You're kind of talking about it it goes into the whole $500,000 house, and $500,000 is just a bigger chunk of money that is appreciating. So the percentage, the numbers of the appreciation is bigger.
Mhm.
Is there any pushback there about like, well, because you only have a 5% down payment, the actual equity that you own, the piece of that appreciation that you, even though the chunk of appreciation is bigger nominally, the chunk of it that you own is maybe less because like in the first 5 years of that mortgage, if you only have 5% down, there's very little actually going to your principal, um,
Yeah.
when you're making the
So,
payments for probably the first 5 years. Does that kind of come into play at all?
I think that's so all of the appreciation is equity. Like you're only getting a loan on the purchase price of the home. And so when the 500K home becomes a 600K home after year 4, you now have 125K of equity in year 4. So like it doesn't matter what your that's the whole thing. Like a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is a good deal.
Yeah,
And appreciation like the wealth, that's the reason why the wealth gap exists. Like it's the reason why the wealth gap exists, and it's the reason why
for sure.
primary residences are the number one thing that cause people to be millionaires in the United States.
Yeah, for sure. Now I'm thinking about it, it is making more sense to me now that I'm doing or attempting to do some math in my head in real time here. Because I guess, yeah, if
No,
you
but
had
to your point
25,000,
about being a math guy, to like I don't want to be. I'm happy to talk rough numbers. Like I'm happy to talk rough numbers, and I'm happy to let people pick their own numbers. Also, I don't want to be. I'm not trying to be the guy that's like, oh, like I'm talking against that. Like I'm
mm,
literally exactly talking against that of saying that like if you're so crunching the numbers, I'm saying that they're closer than people believe. Like they're actually close. I don't here's another thing. I don't believe in geographical arbitrage in the United States. Like I just don't believe actually that any one state is like more affordable than another. I just don't believe that because your salaries that your company pays you are different in every state. Your salary is different in zip codes between San Diego and LA. You can work for the same company in San Diego and LA will have different paychecks. You can work for the same company in Texas and California will pay you different paychecks. And so like it just isn't I think a lot of finance is more of a wash than we tell ourselves. And so, like, that's then where you have to get into a lot of the stuff that the spreadsheet doesn't show, which is I genuinely believe that like being in control of your own space is like better for like I'm just gonna go all the way there. Like I think it's better for your mental health than like renting. Like I think
yeah,
the perception. I think you're going to realize when you get on a call at your job where you're trying to get other like when you're trying to get the 53-year-old HR rep to like take you seriously, they're going to take you more seriously when you're calling in from the extra bedroom of a house that you own rather than like a rental with like boob lights on the ceiling and stuff. Like just straight up. Like that's just true. That's true. And so I think the mental like there's a whole host of things there that you're not counting in the spreadsheet.
yeah. And I think this is actually one of the things I think that you do probably better than everybody is trying to account for. I mean, let me ask you this: do you think that why do you think people are so bad at um, accounting for and thinking about and trying to quantify, or I guess properly evaluating the value of things that are not spreadsheetable or are not reducible to spreadsheet numbers? I think you work really hard to think about the other stuff, and you have some really interesting ideas on that. But why do people struggle with that?
Because we are all raised by parents that got screwed over by fiat money. Like in our like we all have limiting beliefs because our parents were broke. And maybe that's me projecting. Maybe that's me projecting, but through talking to thousands of people over the internet and in person, like I don't think it's projecting anymore. I think that our we like to talk shit on like legacy financial advisors and stuff. Like the who were your parents listening to? Like
Yeah,
it's so baked into society, like the scarcity of oh, your incomes can't rise, you can't build out of this, you can't whatever, is like so baked in society because fiat has like caused you to devalue your own like self-worth.
Yeah, and that's I wanna get into this other piece of one of your other YouTube videos, but you're also this is a good segue into spending, and I think you have a unique take on spending that is very it's I think if I understand kind of your journey, you've evolved in the way you've thought about spending to get to where you are now, and I will confess to you, Brian, that one of your videos was really helpful to me, I don't know if it's a YouTube video or if it was one of your podcast experiences, but you were talking about if you are a parent of, 2 young kids, you know, buy the meals, order the meals, bring them back. The convenience is worth it. Spend the money, and just don't worry about it. Don't think about it because you're in a stage in your life where it's more valuable to spend the time with your kids, that time that you have, versus laboring over, dinner and dishes and all that stuff. And my wife and I have started doing that, and that has definitely, you're she and you are very much aligned. And that was actually me, I think, who needed a little bit of convincing there, and because maybe I was working with somewhat of a scarcity mindset, which I certainly shouldn't be, but really learning to value that convenience and what that unlocks for our life as a family was really important. It sounds like a stupid small thing, but it makes a huge difference. And I'd love for you to talk about how you struggled with maybe spending and how you got from where
Mhm.
you were to where you are now.
Yeah, so no, and so my wife did better than it at me at doing it also, and we've almost like switched positions now, and it's funny, like it's not so it's um neither is bad in and of itself is what I want to highlight though. I want to highlight that like because freaking like winging it and overspend, like I'm not trying to say that you should just wing it and overspend also. Like but but I think that I'm trying to find a short way to answer or just like what
You have an idea too about
tee it
kind
up
of,
again. Yeah.
yeah. So I've heard you talk about, what Bitcoin enables people to do that they just have trouble actually realizing that they've actually done it is Bitcoin kind of fills your long-term savings bucket already, but people just don't they just can't see or acknowledge that it's full already. And so you can pull forward some spending because you don't have to, I guess, if you were saving in fiat, I mean, the level of kind of of determination and aggressiveness that you constantly have to be saving in to run ahead of the debasement that is always happening is so intense that like every present day expense seems like it's like this
Yes.
horrible thing.
You're
Is that good? Does that
You
help?
can have it both. Yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's you can have both. Like you can't that's the whole thing is like when you're talking about like why do we struggle with like in the past, if you're on a fiat standard, there's a constant tension between should I save this money or should I enjoy the moment? And we all like that's what I mean by scarcity. Like we don't believe like we actually in our own brains don't believe that we can have both. Like we you actually don't believe your life can be that good, that your tomorrow can be good and your today can be good because it's been so beat into our heads that you have to work hard and skimp, work hard and skimp, work hard and skip in order to have the payoff later that you don't actually believe about yourself and your own situation that my future is going to be awesome and my today like is awesome. And like what made me more so in having that, right? Skipping the spending or whatever and throwing it into Bitcoin would feed my dopamine of my self story that I would tell myself is like, oh, I'm so good at personal finance and my spreadsheet looks so good and my tomorrow is gonna be so good because I'm at like this thing. And that story in my own head, I was prioritizing above my wife, above my kids and but what that masks is also masks that as soon as you flip and start prioritizing today of like how can I make today good, you then like spend more energy on like in like on how to increase your income or how to make other things in your life more efficient. Like that, and that is Bitcoin working. Like that is Bitcoin working of like you did it. Like you're already more wealthy than you believe. Your savings is already more valuable than you believe. Your ability to produce income is already higher than you believe also.
Yeah, I do think that kind of breaks people's brains. It's still, even for me, it's difficult for me to fully embrace that. I think what you said about like the dopamine rush of saving for tomorrow, it almost becomes like the idea of tomorrow, of a rich tomorrow, is almost like pornographic. I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's
100%.
people kind of fetishize it, and it's just this thing. It's a dopamine hit every single time.
You're
Every DCA
scared, dude,
purchase
and
is a
you're
dopamine hit.
scared. You're scared of today. You're scared of today. So you are saying you're making an excuse for your scaredness today that, oh, tomorrow will be awesome. I will learn how to live abundantly and for fun tomorrow, later, when I have more optionality. And this is what I've been that muscle that is a muscle. Like you have to get good. Like if you're not good today at doing that, you will not be good then at doing it either. Like, and here's an example. Want to know where my ceiling is, dude? Here's exactly my ceiling. I can order DoorDash for my family, no problem, easy. That muscle is built, like it's fully there. All like, bro, Disneyland. I hate Disneyland. I don't want to burn money at Disneyland. Like, I hate that. Like, that's not fun at all. I won't have fun. My brain is just like, Brian, you will not have fun at Disneyland. Like, I believe that about myself. So that's true. Okay. Like, that's true about myself because I believe it about myself.
Mhm.
Like, so and everyone's is at a different thing. Growing up, mine was you can go out to eat, but you can't get the sodas because getting the sodas is what turns it into hyperbolic spending.
Yeah.
Like, and so
Like
we
no
each have
appetizers. Yeah.
no appetizers. If we order fries, they all get dumped in the middle and everyone has to pull from them. Like, you're worried, like, so everyone has their different like thing. Like, and or we hang out with our other friends and it's like, there's some people that they're just like so against the concept of Instacart because Instacart does the price per item is higher in the app than when you're at the store. And that's frustrating. That's frustrating and annoying and sneaky and whatever. Da 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 da. And you know what? You're right. If you are micro looking at the exact thing, but here's the other thing that like, and someone tweeted this. It's like the tweet was like, I just paid $7.50 for an iced coffee, and I have no idea anymore if that's a like inflation adjusted fair price or like a crazy. And I was like, I agree. Like it's just numbers, and this is where it's just numbers. It's completely random. Like fiat pricing is completely random and weird, and life is becoming more of like it really is a mindset thing, dude. Like all of the frou like mindset stuff like is right. And like going on walks to like calm your anxiety, like all of that stuff like is right and actually more relevant than, especially if you're a recovering spreadsheet person. If you're a recovering spreadsheet person or you let your spreadsheet dictate your life, th- let me say it a different one. There's a different world. There is a And I still love my spreadsheet. This is what I'm saying too. I still love my spreadsheet and I still budget and I still have very like metrics driven goals for our own net worth and for our own thing. Um, I now believe that it's not either or though. I believe you can have your cake and eat it too. I actually believe that living this way is going to make me more wealthy in the future than living the other way. So it's not like I'm not saying, oh, prioritizing today is better than prioritizing your long-term net worth. I'm literally saying that learning how to buy the sodas, learning how to blow the $100 at the arcade, learning how to spend on things that are good and of high quality, and learning how to spend on things that matter to your partner and maybe you less is literally changing your brain chemistry to where you are going to be more successful in the next decade because of that changed brain matter. And your kids are going to be more affluent because you learned how to level up your own life rather than be scared of it as a habit for them.
Yeah, I think people also I agree with all of that. I think people project their dissatisfaction with the present and they just project it into this drive to improve the tomorrow, and I think it just masks it's a discomfort thing. I think people are just uncomfortable with some of the dissatisfaction if they're stuck in some situation that they don't wanna be in, but they kind of pat themselves on the back because they, you know, 30 years from now, it's gonna be aw it's kinda the same thing with all the personal finance influencer folks who are just like, "If you just, put aside $100 a week for, like, 485,000 weeks, by the time you're 600 years old, you'll have $950,000 and it'll be
Yeah.
awesome," and you can just do
Mhm.
whatever you want, imagine that, And, but what you're saying, I think, is like, learning to live well and to enjoy the present is, I think, really a skill, and to think about how enjoying the present and feeling, happy and satisfied and purposeful in the present, is kind of has, like, long-term I mean, I think there's, like, long-term health effects to that too. I mean, a big unlock for me is I mean, you and I both and we're both gonna get absolutely crucified for this, so I apologize in advance for bringing you into this, but, um we both follow Brian Johnson. I think, we both, to varying degrees, will kind of, uh, have adopted certain, pieces of his philosophy, which I like the simplicity of just thinking about just don't die. I think it's a good to me, I think reducing life to simple like directives, basically like, you can reduce all of your personal finance life to me to just kind of just Bitcoin. I mean, there's a little bit more than that, but you would be fine if you just reduced it to just buy Bitcoin. If you just reduced health to just like, okay, just don't die. And obviously, you're going to die, probably. I mean, who knows? But you will. There's a lot of downstream effects of just adopting that and just saying that's the North Star. I'm not going to like overthink it too much, but I struggled a little bit, so I do certain things for my health. My wife has talked me into certain things to doing for my health that are, cost some money. Have like a Whoop. I track stuff. I go do blood tests and things like that, and I try to make sure that I don't have cancer and that I don't have, heart disease that is in its early innings. Because my family, a lot of people have that, and that costs money. And I wrestle with some of that. And I have wrestled with some of that, thinking, okay, I mean, I've done the math. I've added it up. I've said, here's how much money I spend on my health every year, and it's not an insignificant number. It's, like, very real, and it would not be difficult for me to convince myself, could I put this money elsewhere? But the framing that I've tried to use, which I feel like is, Brian-esque type of framing, is I've basically asked myself, if I did the same exercise when I was 65, what would be the dollar amount that I would be willing to go back in time and put on? It would be 10x, what I would putting on now. Like, 20 years from now, I would say, man, if I could go back and do that decision again, I'd pay 10, 20x to pay the money, just spend the money because there are certain other non-spreadsheetable things that are more important. Um, and so, yeah, which I guess is all just, it is very hard. I think these are conversations that are worth having that people need to just kind of see modeled out. And I definitely want to acknowledge that it's hard, even for, I think about it a lot. And for me personally,
Yeah.
it's hard.
What Brian Johnson does good that I want to pull into Bitcoin is he talks about just that the what is seen as normal tomorrow will is will not be anything that we're doing today. He's like, it just won't be the same. It'll be so different. So when he's like, I don't drink and I go to bed at 8:30 every day, and he's like, prioritize getting sleep. I was like, that will be seen as baseline normal. As soon because like AI and the like math and the metrics of us all just realizing that over and over and over and over. And he talks about how health is high status. Health is a high, and
Mm,
this is already a thing. Health is a high status thing. Being skinny is you are a high status person if you are skinny. And that's true. Like straight up, that's true. People perceive you better. Like, and he's like, that like in the we that feedback loop is already starting, and with science getting better and AI getting better, we are going to hack our brains to help everyone get there. And the challenges that we face today and the societal norms around how we spend time with each other are going to change, and society is going to look way different in 10 years. And he's like, I'm choosing to just go and live there right now. And I don't really care what people think about me because I'm choosing to go and live there right now.
Yeah,
That's
he
like, yeah,
yeah,
go
no,
ahead.
I think I was gonna say I agree. He does a really good job of, I think, like, these thought experiments that he runs, the shit that he gets, I think, is from people listening to him in short form. Like, when he's in long form, I think the thought experiments are really just worth having, like, thinking about what somebody 500 years from now, like, what would they think about the way that you're living? I think that's, like, a useful, um, heuristic. And I think it's like it's interesting to kind of do similar things with Bitcoin. I mean, it makes sense to me that he is somebody who's kind of into, or seems like he's at least adjacent, to
Mhm.
Bitcoin. I think he spoke at the Bitcoin conference, but,
Yeah. No, and
yeah, and so which makes sense. I think the things kind of dovetail a little bit.
mindset part dovetails. The people that don't like him, the people that don't like him are for the same like because he is pouring salt on a wound of something that is hard in their life, which is true.
Yeah, no,
That's
that's a good
why
point.
there's
That's a good
truth.
point.
There's truth in it. And that's where like me saying I'm like me saying stuff about like I am a recovering like frugal bastard. That's why I know how to pour salt on that of people that are struggling with that. I like went through like learning how to buy a house. Like, and that's why I know the exact limiting beliefs that you are telling yourself and coping with yourself. I was a freelance person that was broke and didn't make any money and had to have a loan officer stare me in the face and say, "You don't make any money." Like, okay. So I know what to say because I have been there and like struggled with that with like people. And I think so like the society like we are getting like people. Actually, I have a question for you off of this too. But we are getting faster and faster. Something that the internet is allowing us to do, and like influencers are allowing us to do, is we're getting faster and faster at finding things in our life that we want to change and changing them. Like my wife and I talk about this a lot of just like access to information and being able to do something with the information is addicting. Like once you've done it, you now know how to do it faster. And I think I just want to encourage Bitcoiners that like if everyone has their niche though, right? Like real estate maximalists will be like, real estate is the path to financial freedom. Bitcoin and crypto people are like, Bitcoin and crypto is the path to financial freedom. Fitness people are like, fitness is the path to freedom. Like everyone is telling you their niche, but what's great is now you can sit there and you can literally let them reprogram your brain and you can go have conversations with ChatGPT about things that you're hearing on YouTube or on TikTok or on Instagram. And you can like train your own self into changing your habits. Like you can change your habits and you can say no to things that you like just do something different. Like and that's why I try to tell people too of like okay, just look, go like okay, your goal is to stack as much Bitcoin as possible. Totally get it. Here's something that will blow your mind. Take your partner and go blow $500 at Nordstrom for no reason on a random Tuesday. That interaction together I think will help you stack more Bitcoin than what you're currently doing.
Yeah,
Go do something different. Go do something different and just watch what happens on the feedback loop and then iterate from there and do something else different. And like we, yeah, like you can, like you can just do things. You
yeah.
can do things.
It's like
And
Bitcoin
I
is,
don't, yeah.
yeah, it's like a liberating, it can kind of like liberate you to do that, and I think that is really just like the magic of Bitcoin versus fiat, is that what you just described, that kind of freedom to do that sort of thing. Obviously, Bitcoin empowers that, but I also think thinking about Bitcoin as a holistic piece of being a person versus just like stacking being your entire identity, but is like stacking is that component of your life, and it's very impactful because everything's kind of downstream of that, but it just frees you to experiment with these other things that can provide a lot of value to your life.
The growth of Bitcoin will bail you out. Like the growth of Bitcoin will bail you out according to the old rules. And I think and I think that's the other thing too. Is like, oh, so yeah, you've struggled with like whatever of like emotionally overeating. Yeah, I struggle with emotional overeating too. Yeah, my family was obese too. Yeah. So yeah, is Brian Johnson like kind of rude and kind of weird and kind of looks weird? Totally. Absolutely. Blah blah like but like, so what? Like, it just you kind of get to that point of it's like, so what? And you almost get addicted to like the more weird stuff, the better. But not just like entertainment for the sake of it being weird. Like you go and just try it out in your own life and you try these weird like micro experiments in your own life. And this is to the same. So we talk about to like Bitcoiners directly. This is the same thing to like crypto people. Like, okay, crypto people. So you're actively trying to like trade ticker symbols for income. Okay, awesome. But also, stacking Bitcoin in and of itself, you're underexposed and you're not understanding how big of a deal actually owning just Bitcoin is also. Or the person that like invests in their like 401k and like only does stable investments or whatever. Um like it's not buying $100 of Bitcoin, buying $1,000 of Bitcoin like is not going to kill you. And like that could be the thing that then like sends you down the rabbit hole of having enough like financial skin in the game to begin learning about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot about or have been, I guess, in the last year, thinking a lot about focus. And you're making me think about this with crypto. And I think this applies to so many different aspects of life. And in a recent video, you were talking about like reducing the amount of accounts that you had, just simplifying things, just get more straightforward, get drill down. And I mean, for me, I think there's so much to digest out there about health and money and things like that. For me, I find it attractive to just find somebody who is, epically dialed in, just whole life energy dialed into like one kind of component. And then, do some due diligence, obviously. But, I would say kind of dive in and like verify as you go, but it also relieves some of that bandwidth stress on you where it's like you're not thinking about, oh my God, like what supplements should I be taking? Like, or do I have this level? Right? To just
Mhm.
outsource it. Find the best
Yeah.
place to outsource it because there are people who are using a bunch of AI and I think for finance, I mean, Sailor's using AI to create all the, preferred instruments and stuff like that. I mean, and Sailor's outperformed every investor like that exists since like 2020, at least in terms of his company and the S&P. I think it's to me like approaching crypto people at this point is like, are you outperforming Sailor or not? I mean, because he has like this one idea, and his one idea is just that somebody else had an idea that is
Mhm.
really good, and he should just somebody else found in that component of life, the lever to just like jump up and down on to move the world, and then they did that, and so that's why for me it is. I feel like finding these you can just outsource these things. I mean, you can and then you can just live your life. I mean, you can just DCA Bitcoin and you can just deliver blueprint or whatever to yourself, and then you can just live your life outside of that, and that's pretty good.
Absolutely. It makes up, yeah, doing that part right. Because the question I wanted to ask you about was like over optimization. And there's some good people kind of talking about this of how like being like overly optimized. Or there's some good YouTube videos that talk about just like why has every hobby become a side hustle? Or the just and or just there's people that are I still drink. Like I still drink alcohol. Like I'm not to the point yet where I like say no to that in a social setting. Because because on the trade-offs, like I still enjoy the social aspect of it. Um, yeah, what do you think about over optimization?
Yeah, I do think it's a thing. I think my personality probably tends toward it, but I also, I mean, for me, the way I think about it is, instead of thinking about trying to optimize to the max 100%, just try to like raise the floor of your optimization level. If you're like 10% optimized, I don't even think 100% optimized is like, and also using the word optimized sounds horrible. I mean, it makes me feel kind of gross. You sound like a science experiment, but if you're like 10% dialed in to things, just try to raise that, make your daily baseline just higher. It doesn't need to be 80, 90, 100, just make it higher. So like for me, one example I was talking with my wife about this the other day because we went out to this brew pub in my hometown. I had a couple beers. I normally don't drink very much, but I had a couple beers, and because I don't drink very much, I was, I was feeling it. And I was like, oh, this is gonna wreck my sleep. And I was like, this is a nice night out with my wife. This was fun. Met a bunch, got to talk to and reconnect with a lot of people from my hometown, and patronize a local business that was just starting and give them some of my dollars and some of my financial energy to help them out. And so that was really nice. And there are other things that are valuable, but I like knowing that the next day in my morning routine, there are just things that happen every morning, and just no matter what happens the rest of the day, because I also have like an inveterate sweet tooth. I mean, I will absolutely like
Yep.
house chocolate in our house to the point that we can't even keep it in the house because it's just a problem. Um, but like I know that the morning I crush the morning. And it's not even like I'm not one of these people. I don't want to sound like I'm like somebody that wakes up at 4 a.m. and works out. I actually don't. To me, it's just like I just make sure that nutritionally, like my morning meal, what I have with my coffee and stuff like that is good, and try to get 7 to 8 hours, and then if stuff goes a little bit off the rails after that, that happens, and I try to be okay with that. But I'm okay with it because I've raised the floor. Like the lowest that my day will go is higher than what it used to be, and I think that's how I think about that.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty, yeah, similar. And
Yeah,
that circles all the way back to the beginning of the like that having that's the health version of the same thing of the like is your like you're not fully letting your happiness like in the social setting be dictated by like the metrics, but you're aware of decisions like in their impact on the metrics. And I think that's I was something that AI and like health wearables and things like that have made it easier for me to I've I've never been the like at work and stuff, I've never been the metrics driven guy. Or we even talked about this of like being the map. Like I'm not the like, oh, my metrics are like better than yours because I hate that. I hate the data argument back and forth thing because there is ways to just make numbers lie and say whatever you want and like not it's not fully about that. I think it's about just simply like, do you have a feedback loop or not? Like, are you acting intentionally and do you have a feedback loop? And are because that's the powerful thing. Like that's the powerful thing. And I think like people that are so if you're so in the Bitcoin example, if you're so good at saving, so good at saving, so good at savings, then you know that feedback loop, you've already like demonstrated that over the course of 7 years, you've made your Bitcoin stat grow. That is incredible. Like not get that is incredible. You crushed it. You did it. And now, if you raise the floor of other areas in your life, like you literally haven't even thought about how good your life can be because you're still just practicing this one play over and over and over and over again. And that's where the scarcity and the fear comes in. Like you're almost afraid to like restart over at something you're not good at because you find so much comfort in being so good at this like one thing. And but like Balaji does a good job saying he's like AI is allowing us to all spread our wings wider. Like your surface area is wider. Or way back in the day, like Tim Ferriss post college had a really big influence on me, and he talked about generalists versus specialists. Like that was a really early thing on that, and it was like I have all like that inspired me to like be a generalist, or it inspired me to be okay with my natural tendency to be a generalist.
yeah. I think this is actually a good segue into what I think is one of your most interesting ideas, that I kind of bounce around in my head a lot, which is because it's related to this idea of raising the floor in other areas of your life. You have this idea about compounding influence, and also kind of like compounding community. And you're big on staying in a place and like building connections in a place. But can you talk about, because I just don't think there are other Bitcoiners who think about this in the same way that you do. I think you're like legitimately, I think you're the only person who kind of has this view, and then you present it to other people. And I think sometimes, those are really fun generative moments when you do present them to other people, because I think it causes other people to think about these. So, but can you talk about this idea of compounding influence in your life, which and what that means that you should maybe be doing with your life outside of Bitcoin or with, I guess,
Yeah.
empowered by
With
Bitcoin?
mhm. I think that I really enjoy I really enjoy networking. And I've been a like I'm trying to think of what I really enjoy networking. In every and this is going to come across as like maybe vain, but it'll express the point. If I go to a party, I don't I don't want to talk about sports with the random people. And that doesn't mean that I don't like sports. I love sports. But or it should be this. If I'm going to talk about sports, then I want to talk about sports with the most influential person at the party. I guess that's just that's if I'm going somewhere, like it's already in my head of where am I going? Who else is going to be there? And I'm already pre-planning how I'm going to talk to the most like influential person there. This isn't new to anyone that feels like this. Like people that are like this will already understand what I'm saying, but a lot of people don't say this out loud. And when I do say it out loud, it makes me sound just like it just sounds like douchey and like politics and like, oh, just like people that there's always a way to like squeeze more value out of things. Or another way I used to explain it was because I used to do like personal brand consulting for like just like kind of just like classic Orange County business guys. And something that I would tell them is like you're like social media is you're like everything is happening physically and digitally at the same time. So if you are at the XYZ business meeting listening to whoever and you're meeting influential people there, like posting that is showing that influence to a different group of people. You've now doubled the impact of you driving across town, parking, paying the $50 to get in, eating the bad lunch. Like you're so it's networking is not a waste of time. You're now doubling the time that you're getting. And this is the same reason why I like talk about the owning. Like owning versus renting, it's effectively a wash, but on one, you're getting a rebate of appreciation. Like if you're and then it's like, okay, well then what city am I living in? Well, okay, then pick a city where you can like meet the other influential people in there. And now you're getting a rebate on the inflation growing to the house, and you're getting a rebate on meeting the other influencers in that city. Like, so every like we're used to this concept of like, oh, if I hold my money at SoFi instead of Bank of America, they pay me more interest. Like the compounding is better. So you're picking the product that serves you better. Or like Naval does a really good job. He's like, what's your number one advice for to young people to move to the Bay Area? He's just like analytically, the per capita closeness of other smart people that are going to go on to be wealthy, like it's plus EV to move to the Bay Area. Like if you have nothing else going on, you just want the most generic answer. If you don't know what your edge is, it's plus EV to move to the Bay Area. Like so, life. This is life. Like every single decision you have, there's a way to like accrue value to that decision. And yeah, so just every day I'm just running like how do I like gr- just allow things to compound to me, and I don't like doing things that don't compound. Solar. I don't like paying money to the utility company. I would rather flat rate the lease and develop my own energy and then mine Bitcoin with the excess while having all of my electricity cut. Like if you just fill all the holes in your bucket every single day, you are compounding. Like this is you're increasing surface area for luck. You're like whatever. There's so many different ways to like explain it, but yeah, it's just like there's so many different ways to let your life compound that you can let it all work together.
And you think it's important for Bitcoiners to think about this in terms of influence, would you say it's important actually for Bitcoiners to be homeowners, to be involved in their communities, to be like squeezing social value out of things because there's like some I guess like societal good that collectively and individually will come from that.
Y- yes. Like, yes. I think I would take it so far as like, I believe that if we don't do this, we are prolonging. If we don't do this, Bitcoin will not replace fiat money as the base currency of the world. Like, so what do I wake up every day with like, probably my top objective in life is like I want to see Bitcoin replace fiat money in my lifetime. Like from a professional hobby perspective, but further than hobby dilutes it too much. Like I believe the number one thing for the individual and for society is for Bitcoin to replace fiat money as the base currency of the world. So if and I believe that in America, there's probably like 10,000 people left that are stopping that. That's not that many. Like that's not that many. There's probably like 10,000. Like I'm thinking like heads of large insurance companies, like the governor of like certain states, like the owner of like such and such. Like there's really only like 10,000 individuals that are stopping Bitcoin like replacing fiat money more than it already is, and you're not you can't they aren't going to do it because you're buying $20 of Bitcoin a week. They aren't going to do it because you're buying $25,000 of Bitcoin a week. They're going to do it because you became so influential that they felt dumb not doing it. Or you like finally made them realize that their quality of life is at risk for not doing this. And so yeah, like I think it's like a literally a yeah, I think it matters. I don't think there's anything else, like there's nothing else to work on really.
Yeah, I find that super interesting because most Bitcoiners would probably say, "Look, wake up every day, try to orange pill as many like individuals as you can." That's how you get mass adoption is kind of go person by person, orange pill them, get them all kind of, I guess create almost like a parallel social layer. Whereas I think what you're saying is no, you need an integrated social layer. You need the Bitcoiners to kind of integrate into the um like the power structures, which it's not and some people might say, oh well, those are just like fiat institutions. Like, no, those are institutions and like structures of power and influence in society that right now, because fiat is the base currency of the world, like the sort of fiat, I guess, totems of influence are what gets you to the top of those structures. But the structures themselves, I don't think are not well. Some of them are, but
So the
most of
people themselves, yeah, the people
yeah,
themselves, in my experience, are not allegiant to fiat. Like they're not allegiant to that. They're self-acting. Like
yeah.
humans are self-acting. Um, and so they're no like no, they're not allegiant to the old world. They seem to be shown the new world. And look, can having parallel systems increase our leverage? Totally. Like absolutely. Absolutely can increase our leverage. Um I don't believe yeah, and I just think that
Would you say that like it's useful to have a parallel structure until the opportunity, like the ripe, like optimal opportunity to integrate to crossover presents itself, and then like the mission has to be some crossover. Like you can't being sort of separate and parallel for the sake of being separate and parallel. It's not like an end in itself. Like eventually you have to
I guess I
come
would
over.
yes, yes. And I would say that I think each person I've actually thought about this a decent amount, and I think depending on who you talk to, it's a good question to ask them. Do you believe that integrating is a bigger lever or building a parallel system is a bigger lever? If you go and ask Balaji, he will tell you that building a parallel system is a better lever. And he's like, that's the reason why I'm moving to Singapore. That's the reason why I'm building network states. That's the reason why I don't believe he over every interview, he goes above and beyond to be like, I believe in the idea of America, but the West is in decline. And he like shows all the graphs and shows all the data. And
Yeah.
so I agree with that. And I see, or I should say, I understand what he's saying. And he does a good job of saying why the parallel system matters or is better or whatever. And I guess I go back to like, I think so. I think sometimes people listen to that, or I think sometimes people listen to the parallel system. Here's where I went off on the parallel system. So I was this too during COVID, went down very deep rabbit hole on like the parallel system is better, the circular economy is better. I'm as much circular economy as like anyone else. I think that that keeps you broke. Like I think that keeps you broke. So unless you're financially independent, I think that integrating until you reach a wealth floor is a better thing to work on. And I don't because like yeah, that's just what it comes down to. I think that Bitcoin is the first time that you can be Bitcoin is the first time that you can have both though also, which is the other thing is like it's like anti-establishment and good for you from a wealth building perspective at the same time. And there's never been another form of protest in the world that was both. Any other time that you were protesting, you were literally you were putting yourself in a negative financial position to protest. You've never been able to like protest while also putting yourself in a positive financial position at the same time. So that's why I believe that you can actually double down on becoming wealthy rather than trying to be like, I'm an Exeter geo arbitrage guy. Like, and because I think then there is the kicker of the people in actual power in the quote unquote establishment are not allegiant to the establishment.
Yeah. I think I personally struggle. I mean, I find Balaji pretty exhilarating to listen to. He's like very energizing and intellectually stimulating. And I mean, I could listen. I remember the first Balaji podcast I heard was he did like a 15-hour thing on Tim Ferriss. I don't know, like 5 years ago, and it was not literally 15, but it was like 4 hours. It was an insanely long podcast. But it was also like his most downloaded podcast of the year. I think because it was just so idea dense and rich. And Balaji is just like a mile a minute talking about all these like radical ideas. But I think he makes the case really compelling, but I struggle a little bit with. I mean, I guess he has more of like a reordering, like sort of like global flourishing versus bunker citadel vibe, and I think the average Bitcoiner maybe doesn't draw such a sharp distinction. Like Balaji would definitely not say, "Oh, we're just gonna like hodl our bitcoins in cold storage and live in like these sort of like fortified little kind of tiny communities where we like trade wooden bowls with each other." Whatever. I think he legitimately believes in like a super flourishing society that you would see in like a science fiction film of like a
Mhm.
really successful society in 2400 or something like that. Which is why I think kind of like a lot. There's like a little bit of reverberation with like a Brian Johnson idea there too.
I think he does see a little bit of a clash with the establishment though. And this
Yeah.
is why this is my like th- th- this is why it's good to use him as like a like it's that position. Like because but I agree that it's not as doomsday as other Bitcoiners, which is good and why it comes across as more compelling. Um I am more favorable on the ability, I guess, of reform than he is. Like, if we polled both of us on, do you believe the current power structures can reform? I would say yes. Like I believe in the financial incentives of Bitcoin to be able to like reform the way it currently works.
Do you view Bitcoin treasury companies as an instantiation of integration? And do you think it's a positive one, the way that they're kind of integrating into the traditional financial, I guess, superstructure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, or, but, because there are a lot of like hardcore, kind of like under the mattress in a cave type Bitcoin people who are like morally incensed by it. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I mean, everybody can have their own
Yeah.
thoughts and feelings on it, but it does seem, I think that the Bitcoin treasury companies bring out that divide we've been kind of discussing around of like the integrationist versus the like parallel worlds. How do you feel about that?
I'm very neutral. Like, I'm trying to say that in a non-answer way. I'm I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it. I don't think they're bad. I think that it's good that the question is continuing to be forced over and over and over. If you have to hold capital, should you hold it in dollars or Bitcoin? Like, should you hold it in dollars or Bitcoin? Should you hold it in dollars or Bitcoin? Should you hold it in dollars? Like every single family is asking that. Every single individual is asking that. Every single company is asking. Like, that question is good. The more that it's asked every single day, like the better. Um. So yeah. So that part is good, and I am a pro. Like, and I am pro integrating. Um. I think something that individual Bitcoin investors aren't taking into account when buying them is just how wonky the stock market is in general. Like, I'm just not even like removing Bitcoin treasury companies for a second. Like, the way that equities are valued is random. Like, I
Yeah.
or is not there isn't a formula or one way to do that. And that's not something that I sit around trying to understand is how equities are valued. So I don't want to like invest in one because I don't understand it.
Yeah. I view it as kind of the analogy that I think about in my head, um, is like a sports one. So like I view it as the treasury companies are sort of like the Golden State Warriors whenever Steph like became Steph, and they just sort of exploited a lot of weaknesses in the existing paradigm of playing basketball. So they the way that the games were being officiated, they exploited those. So somebody like James Harden did the same thing, and they're just the way that people would guard the 3-point line or not guard the 3-point line as the case may be. I mean, they just exploited that. Or it's like a basketball team. If you're going to sit in a zone defense, if I put 5 3-point shooters in the game and we just shoot threes, we're going to force you to come out of that defense and play man to man. And that's kind of, I think, what the treasury companies are doing. I view it as kind of like they've just identified a weakness in the defense, and they're just like, we are going to just explode this, or we're going to attempt to, and some of them are going to lose the game because they're going to, to extend the metaphor, they're going to miss the shots.
Yep.
It's not going to
Yep.
work. But some of them are going to probably revolutionize how the game is played just because they're just jumping on top of that weakness and just over and over and over again and just hitting it. But I don't know. That's
No, I
maybe
think that's
useful.
a
I
fair
could,
analogy. I think that's a fair analogy. Another sports analogy of the same thing is like PGA golfers are like wrecking old golf courses because they've just gotten so much better at hitting the ball farther. Like, so course records, and it just is changing the complete game. And so I think that I think what happens, so I think that's true. I think that's true. But then I think what happens is I think from an investing perspective, individuals overcomplicate. Like, I think it's honestly the same thing how I feel about like L2s and alternate like all L1s. Like, they're competing like brands or like sports teams to accomplish something, and doing that and choosing which one of those is going to be the winner is just different. There's just like a different skill set required to understand which one of those is going to be the winner and what the payoff is for doing that. So if you are playing that game, you should make sure that you also are majorly exposed to the actual network, like the actual like Bitcoin that is growing. Like, in terms of that also. And a lot of people are. A lot of people are like, hey, I already have a lot of Bitcoin. Like, I already have a lot of Bitcoin. I'm already so dialed in on that. I totally get it. Now moving on to like understanding the second layer of like the parlay bet. Sweet. Like totally get it.
Well, listen, Brian, I think, and that's actually the topic you just brought up. That is a subject for we're gonna have to do like a part two. We'll do like a recurring part because I and you and I both have a lot of thoughts on that, and we would not be able to do it justice. I think here, kind of coming up on time here. But is there like to leave the audience with in this conversation? I always like to ask people, and I'm sure you have an interesting answer here because I know that you have just a lot of ideas floating around in your head all the time. But what books are you currently reading, and is there anything you would recommend to the audience?
Um, there's there's a book that I keep picking up and putting down, but I like the title of it. It's called Don't Trust Your Gut. And it just talks about it was written pre AI. Or it was written pre Chat GPT.
Hmm.
And it just talks about like you can use numbers to make different decisions and then do it and like watch what happens. And so that's the one that's currently just sitting on my nightstand to as a reminder to myself to like be more analytical. Like be more analytical um and ask quantifying questions.
Yeah. And so as far as whereas people can find you, you have a YouTube channel, which I will let you plug. I will also plug it. Everybody go check it out. Like I said in the beginning, it is definitely a vibe. You will feel energized afterwards. So, but where else can people find you, Brian, including the YouTube?
Yeah, so it's Brain Harrington basically across all platforms. I'm on Instagram and Twitter less than I have been. Yeah, just on YouTube, and so would love to talk to people there.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. Well, Brian, look, thanks for coming on. As always, it's great to see you. Great to talk to you. I was gonna just give you like my initial plan was I'm just gonna give Brian like 10 minutes at the end of this episode to just like chill everybody on the state of California and just see how that goes. But we will save that for next time. Thanks for coming on, Brian. We'll have to do it again soon, and we'll see you next time, everybody.
See you guys.